Did you know that humans are getting shorter? What does bacon and eggs have to do with the CIA successfully overthrowing the government of Guatemala? Which country has a life expectancy of only 14 years old? Learn the stories behind these and so much more in my new book, Facts That Aren't True. Link in the description. I went on TikTok this morning and I saw I was tagged in a video, so I watched it, and some very stable genius had some important questions for me.
Hey, buddy. I hope you've grown since we last met. Can you tell us all how a mass spectrometer works? Can you tell us? Can you explain to us how that works for us? First, tell us how that works there. Hey, I know you're a middle school science teacher and everything. Have you got your degree yet? Huh? Where you at, bro? Hey, tell me about the universe cooling down into cats, dogs, birds, and trees, and how do you make fun of flat earthers when you believe that the universe is the result of a mass cooling, a coalescing into existence? Can you explain that to us, please?
I watched that and I thought, that's not Jacob, is it? Well, turns out it is. Pretty good chance you have no idea what I'm talking about. This saga goes back 2 years. Jacob challenged me to a debate where we would discuss if radioactive decay rates fluctuate over time, and then he said whoever loses the debate has to delete their video. He got annihilated in this so badly, and the cope reaction that he had to it was some of the funniest stuff ever. I hadn't heard from the guy since all this happened because he blocked me afterwards. So I put together a compilation in chronological order of the way this all unfolded. Enjoy.
So Planet Peterson has a video on his channel where he is, a bunch of them are laughing at me. What they don't tell you is what the conversation was actually about. And it was about a question as to whether or not decay rates of isotopes fluctuate over time.
At no point during the discussion that we were having originally did he produce any evidence that decay rates change. He asked us if it's possible, and I said something to the effect of, anything's possible, but you need to show evidence. He never showed evidence. In this video that he made, he never produced any evidence either, which I called him out on. Yeah, so you claim that the decay rates change and ask for evidence. And I mean, this is his response. You can just pause and read it. It's so pathetic. Then what he does is he challenges me to have a debate on this. Now, here's the funny thing. I messaged him several days ago that he could come and talk to me, and it would just be one-on-one instead of a whole bunch of people all screaming. But he's pretending like he's challenging me, and if I don't answer the call, then I'm ducking out. No, Jacob, I already sent you an invitation. I accept your invitation to have a discussion as to whether or not decay rates change. Here's the insane stipulation that he attached.
Whoever loses, and we'll take a vote of all the viewers or something. Whoever loses has to delete their channel, or at least openly admit that they were completely wrong.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Complete and Total Annihilation of Jacob by me. Jacob challenged me to a debate about decay rate. I accepted. Jacob said whoever loses has to delete their account or admit that they were wrong. Now, the reason Jacob needs to make this point is because he believes the Earth is 766,000 times younger than it really is. I made some comments around the idea that if there was evidence that decay rates were 1% different, that wouldn't support his position. This made Jacob declare victory because I was apparently shifting the goalpost. Although, yes, I said there's no evidence the decay rates fluctuate, what we're really talking about is if the data supports his claim or not. To say a 1% fluctuation supports his claim is insane because he needs a 76 million % change. Oh, and he admits it. Here it is in his own words.
I don't get why you would postulate or put forward that it's just absolutely ridiculous to consider the idea that maybe this science is actually inaccurate.
Fun fact, arguing that something is possible is not evidence that it happened, which I pointed out and he didn't even try to address. Jacob has also repeatedly said that I'm not an expert. He says it in videos he made and in comments. This is a moot point because, Jacob, you're not an expert either. You're not a scientist or anything like that. So if the deal is we shouldn't listen to non-experts, then nobody should listen to you either. But Jacob has also said that not only am I not an expert, but I don't even know what I'm talking about. Jacob, I'm here to demonstrate that not only are you wrong, but you're guilty of exactly what you're accusing me of. So, Jacob sent me 3 links that prove radiometric dating rates change, and now I present to you the complete and total annihilation of your claim. After this video, you must delete your channel or admit that you were wrong about everything. The first thing he sent me was a link to a University of Illinois sort of like press release thing. I found the actual scientific article. This article is about isotope fractionation, not the decay rate. The results don't support the idea of U-235 decaying at a rate different from what we observe in the lab. Isotope fractionation is the process of isotopes of the same element separating from one another, becoming enriched. What this article actually does is it proposes that enzymatic activity inside of bacteria causes a nuclear field shield effect, which causes the fractionation. Jacob, if you had any idea what you were talking about, you would have read this article and understood that it's not talking about the decay rate at all. It's just talking about how 2 different isotopes of the same element get separated. Jacob also sent me this article. This article indicates that scientists named Fishbach and Jenkins detected seasonal changes in radioactive decay rates. And then Jacob did the most inexplicably stupidest thing imaginable, and he sent me this article. Jacob, I'm pretty sure that you know how to read, and I'm pretty sure you know how to think, but I can tell that you deliberately choose not to do either, because you would have never sent me this. In the 3rd paragraph of that article you sent me, it says that all of those claims have been refuted. Specifically, what has been refuted is the claims from Jenkins and Fishbach. Here's one such article that does that. Here is another article, which the original claim from Fishbach and Jenkins was that a pathetically tiny 0.1% variance was seen, but even that was proven false. Here's yet another article that proves that their data was false. Here's a scientific article addressing another scientific study that found when they cooled material down to an extremely low temperature, they saw a change in the half-life, or the rate of decay, actually. But it says right here, our experiments show no evidence that the half-life changed at low temperatures. This is how science works. Experiments are repeated by others to make sure the results are authentic. Here is yet another article, and does it say that the decay rates of uranium change? No. It shows that there may need to be corrections in the invariance of the ratio of U-235 and U-238. Again, the separation of isotopes does not mean that the decay rate has changed. It can be caused by all kinds of things. Plus, if you actually read this article, which I know you didn't, the proposed adjustment is 900,000 years. With a 4.6 billion year old meteorite, that's a change of 0.0196%. Again, Jacob needs the answer to actually be 76 million %. Here's yet another article addressing whether or not there were changes to the half-life or the rate of decay for some material. And what they say is, Siegert et al. Reported winter-summer seasonal oscillations superimposed on the radioactive decay curve of radium-226 and daughters measured in the ionization chamber. We have shown that the oscillations are explained by the change of argon density in the ionization chamber. Higher summer temperatures decreased argon density, thereby lowering the ray absorption, which resulted in lowering of the counting rate. So, just to recap, Jacob, you were wrong about everything. And it's not just according to me, it's according to the sources that you provided me. You gave me a source that debunked one of the sources you gave. We have no evidence that the decay rates change at all. We have some differences in isotope fractions, but that is not caused by decay rate changes. And the more important point is, if decay rates did change, that would be interesting, and I would like to learn about that. It would be cool that we learned something new. But, and here's the big but, in no way does any of this have any hope of agreeing with your position, because you think the Earth is almost 800,000 times younger than it really is. To give you an idea of how insane that is, it's the equivalent of believing that the United States, which is over 4,600 kilometers wide, is actually only 6 meters wide. Now, let's say I'm arguing with somebody that thinks the United States is 6 meters wide, and I say it's almost 4,700 meters wide. And they say, oh, how did you measure that? Google Earth? You know that Google Earth isn't 100% accurate, right? Gee, so what are the implications? Maybe it's 100 kilometers smaller than I think it is, or maybe it's only a few hundred meters smaller than I think it is. That doesn't support the insane opposite claim. So, Jacob, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this. I would like to thank you for providing evidence that uncontrovertibly proved that the things you believe in are false. That was a weird sort of own goal on your part. And I'm sorry that your channel will be deleted after this, but you can always make a new one. It's going to take you a little while to get to 1,000 followers, so you can join live streams again. But again, I win, you lose, delete your channel, goodbye.
This won't take long. So the Purdue study we'll just skip over because he doesn't even touch on that. They're not the right isotopes, which that's fine. He doesn't understand why I sent them to the University of Illinois study. Apparently, he doesn't even touch on it, but the title of the excerpt that I sent him was that the ratios of these isotopes are not invariant. He doesn't even touch on that because I don't think he knows what that means for radiometric dating, because if he did, he would have said something, but he didn't. He just went to the larger paper and said it had nothing to do with decay rates. I wasn't sending it to you to say anything about specifically decay rates, but that if the ratios of these isotopes vary, then that has some pretty broad implications on radiometric dating. But let's forget about that for a second, and let's move to the even dumber part of your video, which is the fact that you quote the half-life paper, but you apparently didn't read it. Because if you had, Peterson, you would have read the end of the paper, which specifically tells you that the measuring devices we're using to detect half-life may be inaccurate, and we need to do some more research, and there's some hurdles we need to overcome.
I never use mathematics or statistics or calculations or anything at all like that, because I can't do it. So I just hope for the best.
You didn't read that part, did you? Of course not. Because you're a fraud. So again, you lost. And again, here's the best part, folks. Here's the best part. He admits in the video that there are fluctuations in the decay rates, but they're too small to support a 6,000-year-old Earth. That wasn't the debate topic, Peterson. The debate topic was, is there scientific evidence that decay rates might fluctuate? That was the topic, and you lost. So, unfortunately, I've had to block Planet Peterson and everybody that comments from his little group of cronies because they post some pretty nasty stuff. Some of the messages I've been getting have been pretty disgusting. So, yeah, not really interested in trying to communicate with... it's kind of scary, actually. Not only did he lose the debate, but his cabal of supporters, they are, I think that there's some, I don't know if it's mental illness or... I'm sorry, atheist community. I seem to have evolved into a pear-shaped creature. You're right. Evolution is true. I can't believe it. A pear. I think it's pretty evident for everybody. You can just watch the videos. If anybody has any questions, some legitimate questions about the information that I posted to him, you can go ahead and ask me. But I'm not going to facilitate people making like sexually explicit comments about, I mean, it's just disgusting. And this is like, it's almost, I mean, it's a lot of the people that watch him. So the problem is if we find out that they do fluctuate, even if the variances are small, there's then a potential that the variances, if with further study, the variances could actually be a lot larger than we're assuming. So here's the issue. When someone says there's no evidence that the decay rates of isotopes can fluctuate, or that they do fluctuate, it's just an absurd claim. There is evidence. You might not like the evidence. It might not be a substantial amount of evidence to you, but to make the claim that there's absolutely zero evidence that the decay rate, we don't even have accurate enough measuring devices to make that claim. Yeah, so the issue with science like this is there's going to be debunking and different views all over the place, and that's not the point. That's perfectly fine. The point is, when an individual with a bachelor's degree in biology starts to make claims about radiometric dating that you just can't make because we just don't have enough evidence, we haven't studied radiometric dating for long enough, we don't understand half-life or decay rates enough to make any conclusive statements, but he's making statements as if, and not only is he making statements, he's bashing other people. So ever since I posted my last video a couple hours ago, I've literally gotten like dozens of comments saying, oh, I got destroyed by Peterson. So let me clarify what happened so that everybody can understand why I responded the way I did. So the sources that he used in his total annihilation of Jacob video, I sent him in private message with no conversation about why I sent them, no explanation. I didn't get that chance because what happened was, after I sent those sources with no explanation as to why I sent them or what data I was actually pointing to in those papers, I found out that he had posted a video on YouTube where he uses a thumbnail of a clown, compares me to the clown, and then essentially proceeds to bash me and, the same thing. So at that point, I realized that this guy doesn't really want any actual discourse. He's just in the habit of being a child and posting videos where he slanders people and does what he always does. So at that point, I realized this was a complete waste of my time. Understand that the sources I provided, again, there was no discussion on why I provided those sources, what data I was pointing to. He then proceeded to analyze the sources and tell you that the papers or the sources that I quoted were not about decay rates, but they were about something else. Again, those papers were a part of a massive amount of information that I was going to use at the debate to prove that there is scientific evidence that decay rates fluctuate. This guy, objectively, has no idea what he's talking about. Fair enough, Palmer, so I'll explain my evidence, right? The original debate topic was, my question to him originally, before we even decided to debate, was, is there any scientific evidence that there is a fluctuation, there might be a fluctuation in the decay rates of radioactive isotopes? He said no, there's no evidence that any fluctuations occur. So I said, okay, well, let's debate on that topic. And he accepted. Okay, let's debate on the topic of, is there any scientific evidence that there's fluctuations in the decay rates of radioactive isotopes? But then I looked at his link tree on his bio, and I went to his YouTube channel because I was like, oh, let's see what he puts up on YouTube. And what do I see? A big picture of a clown with my name on it, Jacob, right? And a video just a slanderous, childish video. At that point, I was like, you know what? I'm doing my own community a disservice by engaging with this guy. So I'm just going to end it now, and I'm just going to produce my own videos about him and about, the misinformation that he provides. So then he sends me a message. I ask him specifically about the article that I sent him from the University of Illinois, asking him if he thought that the variance in the ratios of these isotopes posed any problem from radiometric dating. He said, I know what you're talking about. I'll respond in a video. So he doesn't explain anything about the ratios, I'm assuming because he didn't understand, and instead puts out a video on 3 papers I sent him